for like a whole week, just stumbling through life and everything. And Price Plot wasn't exactly getting my finest. So again, thanks to Robert and CJ. But you know what? The thing is, I was leaving messages for CJ, and he's like, you're a mess, but dude, you sound like you're happy. And so that's kind of the truth. It's like you get these funny stories where I thought the cat was the baby.
Welcome to Price Plow.
What's going on YouTube? This is Mike with Price Plow, and this video is going to be way different than anything we've ever had on this channel because it's just going to be me talking about me, which I typically don't do. And so today is October 26, 2017, and a lot of people have been asking, hey, why haven't you guys been covering certain things that have been going on in the industry? What's the conspiracy? And the truth is there's been no conspiracy. The real truth is that about a week and a half ago, I had a baby girl. And so I'm very, very proud of this, obviously. But, normally I keep a lot of my personal life out of YouTube, out of the channel. And it's, it's always been about the Price Plow brand, not much about Mike. And I'd like to keep it that way, but today's going to be an exception. And no, I know that, this isn't anything super special in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, I'm like the 10 billionth human to have a kid here. But hey, we got an audience here. A few people asked what happened. And so, here it is. If you don't need to watch it, then you can skip to the next video. But this will be like the one time where, I get into some personal stuff here. And so, yeah, the truth is like all the stuff with high tech, when you're creating a life, it's a little bit going back and forth on the Federal Trade Commission's lawsuits with high tech, which have been going on forever, and they will continue to go on forever probably. It's not really a priority, and that's the honest truth, and it's tough to decipher that stuff as it is. So no conspiracy, just a lot of stuff going on in the background with the personal life, and the most important thing on Price Plow for me was actually the forums, which I am like in the process of moving over right now. So anyway, today we're going to talk about the whole pregnancy experience and the childbirth experience, because I think I learned a lot of lessons here, and it's not only going to be good for anyone out there who may want to listen, but also good for me to look back and see myself and see how wrong I was about certain things and how much I really didn't know, and just a little bit of documentation for myself and some my friends and family who want to hear kind of the whole story. And so you're going to hear a lot more about me and Jill in my life than pretty much I'll probably ever share again. So let's grab a beer here and enjoy. And so yeah, I'm a little bit older. We're a little bit older than the average person having babies and everything. And so the truth of the matter is that it was always me who really wasn't as interested in starting a family. And I think there's a lot of reasons for this. And first off, I think a lot of it was financial. And so as I've talked about before, Price Plow struggled a lot in 2013 and 2014. And 2013 was kind of like, for me, the second wave. I'm going to take a sip first. It was like the second wave of friends having a lot of kids. Like every one of my friends who were already like coupled up and married were having kids in 2013. And man, I think a lot of you guys can sympathize with this. Every time one of them got pregnant, I was just like, oh no, because I knew like, the biological clock was tearing down on us and everything. And my friends would have kids, and then like the pressure was kind of there, but I never really wanted to do it. And it's like having kids, I'm trying to like not go bankrupt here. I'm like not even worried about even remotely thinking about doing that. And so that was one thing. And the other thing is that, I don't want to get too deep into this, but I think like, in our society in America right now, I really do believe that there's like an anti-family agenda out there, in that we are constantly pushing the nanny state. The government's doing a lot of different things that are separating men from women and separating families. And I've had friends who've had their kids pulled away from them. I've seen divorces that have ended in disaster, where lawyers got half the money, friends' 401ks were ripped apart and everything. And it's like, I've seen that. And I think I let myself fall into some of that anti-family bias. But the honest to God truth is that, I am a conservative person who I do believe I do want to raise a family. And all this time I've had here this great conservative woman who would and currently is being an incredible mother. And so it took me some time to get through that. And I'm very, very thankful that I did. And I believe that some of the propaganda out there kind of got to me, where you have a lot of like, guys just kind of dropping out of the whole dating scene. A lot of guys who are just saying, forget this. And a lot of the whole, third wave feminism. And I think it went a little bit too far. It is going a little bit too far. And at the end of the day, though, we are biological machines. And so once and I do believe that, our bodies, our genes are programmed to keep themselves alive and keep themselves going and everything. And they're selfish. There's a really good book called The Selfish Gene that kind of gets into this. But anyway, the genes, their goal is to get us to breed so that they can keep going. And at some point, after I kind of came to terms with the societal things, but most importantly, the financial thing, PriceFlow turned around, my biology just took over and said, listen, dude, it's a now or never. And so we had a quick talk and over winter break, and we decided to try and got knocked up literally nearly immediately. And so that was a really good thing. Now, since this is a supplement channel, we're going to talk about the supplements and everything. And I'm going to be totally honest. I wanted to wait until all of this was kind of settled before I explain what I was on at the time, because the truth is that I was on an anabolic / natural testosterone booster, and it was actually Antaeus Labs' Titan. And I had a really good month with it. We never posted the review, and for that, Antaeus Labs, I'm so sorry. But I guess if anyone is curious, if you're ever having trouble conceiving and you've just nearly given up, hey, might as well try some Titan. But with the ingredient in there that boosts testosterone is shilajit. And so that could have been what helped me out. I don't think I needed any help in the first place, but I just got to be full disclosure. We're going to talk about something this year. It's a supplement channel, and that was what I was on at the time. Now, also when we decided to start trying, we put Jill on maca root extract, which I think is an awesome thing. If you look at the research, whoa, there's a lot of fertility benefits to it. And then I also had her on spirulina. We're using Now Foods as spirulina. And so we were also using Now Foods as maca root extract. And so did those help? Did they not? Well, they didn't hurt, obviously, because here we are. And now the one thing I want to say, though, is that the baby kind of caught us off guard a little bit. We were mostly ready, but we came in at 36 and a half weeks. So technically speaking, premature baby, and as we speak right now, she is still not at the 40-week gestational age. Still in terms of looking at the sleep studies where they look at after 6 weeks of being born, at 46 weeks of gestational age or whatever, we're actually in the negative zone right now. So we still have time before we hit the 6-week peak of fussiness and everything. For us, it'd be more like 8.5 weeks of her age and everything. So point being is that you could listen to some of the stuff I'm saying, but at the end of the day, we did have a slightly young baby, and we're going to get into that a little bit. So you don't, just being fully disclosure, you don't need to take any advice here. But the reason we were on the maca, a lot of fertility stuff. Now, if I was a guy and I was really getting after it, I would also take maca. I love Antaeus Labs Titan, of course, and I think that was a great supplement. I really do need to get a review up there. That was kind of during a time when CJ and I were going to do testosterone boosting, testosterone blood tests, and that product actually did boost my testosterone levels more than anything else I've ever had. They were still very much in natural ranges and everything, but we never got the video up, and part of that's on me, part of that's on CJ. Long story, but that's not neither here nor there. I would look into maca for guys. I would look into D-Aspartic acid for guys, and I would try to time it up with her cycles and everything. And for the women, yeah, maca. I think maca was a great thing. Spirulina. The reason for spirulina, I forget actually why we took it pre-conception, but we were also taking it for a while during the pregnancy. Because there are the rat study based, but there are some rat studies that show that spirulina, and it's got all sorts of crazy good effects. Spirulina actually brought these rats to fuller term. However, though, I had a panic about spirulina because I saw a lot of it's got mercury, and that's I think the benefits of having whatever it is that spirulina is doing versus the potential negatives of having any mercury that is in there, because it's a algae based kind of supplement where they're getting out of the water and the algae, and a lot of that marine life does have mercury in it, unfortunately. And I know that it's kind of a thing to be shooting our kids up with mercury and putting it in flu shots nowadays, but guess what? I'm gonna try to stay away from that, because where I grew up, when you take, when you drop the thermometer on the ground in 3rd grade and Miss Brodsky says, whoa, if anyone ever drops that thermometer, back the F off and go call the janitor because this mercury is toxic. I kind of keep that in mind, and I don't like getting mercury into our bloodstream. So when I saw that there might be possibly mercury in the spirulina, we backed off of that. But I would be interested to see what would have happened, if we could have split tested our lives, what would have happened if we stuck with the spirulina. But anyway, those are the two supplements. And so what happened was at the Arnold, actually. So we were trying, and it was so when was the Arnold? Early March. CJ, Robert, and I are sitting there at the bar talking. And so before we left, Jill was using the P test and everything, and she showed me the strip, and she's like, "I swear that line's coming in," and I'm like, "No, that's not a line. That's just the indentation where the line would go." And so because it definitely wasn't, the line wasn't pink at that time. So we're at the Arnold. 2017, having a great time. Robert, CJ, and I are getting after it a little bit and having a really, really good chat and everything. And I get a text message from Jill with just a picture with the pink line there. And boom, we were pregnant. Now, I didn't say anything at first because we were so, ahead of the schedule, or we knew so early on that I didn't want to say anything. And I never said anything on this channel. But yeah, we got pregnant, and that was in March. And so then the game was on. And so a lot of people say the time flies and everything. And I guess we were pregnant for 8 months or so. For me, it was the slowest 8 months possibly in my life. And part of that is because we were going through moving to this house in that meantime. And so, and this house feels so much like home. It honestly feels like I've lived here forever. And that's a great thing. It's like, I can't even remember the days of when before we were pregnant, really, because it's been a long time. But in the last nearly 2 weeks since we've had the baby, I can tell you time has flown. And so I truly believe that time is nonlinear, and we don't need to get into that, but it's it was a long pregnancy, and so we had a lot of time to nest, but a couple things we did wrong that we could talk about here. And so once we were doing that, or even before we were trying to conceive, we were looking into what are the best prenatal vitamins. And so we started off with I had some NutriBio stuff around the house. We just started giving Jill that because she didn't normally take a prenatal, but then she realized that she wanted to take a true food-based food-based folate in her multivitamin, and not just folic acid, but folate. And so what we did is we got on the Garden of Life vitamin code raw prenatal, 3 of these per day. And so there's a huge blend. I mean, I could link you on PricePlow if you want. That's really not the point of this thing. But what we did is we actually had to get blood tests. And so this is the prenatal. I might as well go through the whole stack while I'm at it. For fish oil, 3 of these per day, prenatal DHA, and these provided a little bit extra vitamin D and very high quality, high DHA based based fish oil here. And then finally, I realized that our vitamin D intake was at 2,000 IU supplementally. But there's a research study that showed that that babies have way fewer neurological deficits if the mothers would have 4,000 IUs of vitamin D instead of 2,000 IUs. And so, really the best way of finding out is blood testing, which I'm going to get into next. But I ended up deciding that I wanted an extra 2,000 IUs. So, hey, we're doing good with the vitamin code series from Garden of Life. So we added this as well. And I'll tell you what, it worked out really well for that because we did blood tests. Now, here's the thing. I don't know how it works at a lot of these other offices. We went to an OBGYN, and it was Jill's choice and everything, and I was ready to jump ship any time. But I always thought that, hey, you're having a baby, it's all about blood work. We already have all these studies that show, hey, you need vitamin D to be this high. You got to have high folate. You got to make sure that your mineral content is proper, and iron, of course, too. And that was... Finally, we added that in on the rest of the stack, too. And so we added another 25 milligrams of iron. Pregnant women definitely need a good bit of iron. Even if you're eating steak and stuff, I think you need a little bit more. So we added that. So we go to this OB, and, we got shitty Obamacare insurance and everything. And actually, I don't think Jill bought hers through the exchange, but whatever. It's it just sucks. And so they didn't give her blood tests. And so I'm like, well, why? Blood tests are cheap. They're ridiculously cheap. And all we need to know is, are my folate levels high enough? How is my vitamin D? What about HbA1c? I didn't even know much about that stuff at the time because I wasn't yet into the whole keto diet thing. I wasn't punching blood sugar and everything. And so I ended up paying for blood tests myself. And so, as always, we go to health-test-direct.com and we check out the blood tests. And they're not expensive at all. Realized that the vitamin D levels were okay. They were good, but not great. And that's why we added in the extra 2,000 IUs. Folate levels, I will tell you for a fact, this stuff put the folate levels through the roof. And so that was a great thing. But again, realize that baby did come a little bit early. And I think a lot of that is because she was growing really tall. And she was growing really tall, Jill was really short, and it turned out that around week 30, and so we're, through the whole pregnancy, we're eating really well. We had a couple things where I kind of like laid the law down a little bit, where I didn't want Jill eating like hydrogenated fats one time, and we tried our best. And obviously over the course of time, you have some fun with it too, but what I'm finding is that I was more crazy about eating healthy during pregnancy, but now that she is breastfeeding and needs a lot of calories, we're having more fun eating a little bit dirtier too. And so, I drank a little bit during the, there's a couple concerts I went to, I drank a little bit during the pregnancy, but I'm a little bit feel a little bit more comfortable drinking in front of her now, because it's just it's a little bit more fair. But I'm definitely not a big drinker anymore anyway. So this is I'll be buzzed by the time I'm done with this beer probably. So here's where we get a little bit irked. And for anyone who's pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant, I would highly recommend you get a blood sugar test, or you do blood sugar tests more frequently. They give us a blood sugar test between week 29 and 30, and it turned out that Jill was incredibly, very, very glucose sensitive, insulin resistant, insane numbers, where they gave her 30 grams of dextrose-based solution, glucose-based solution, and her blood sugar count went high and stayed highly crazy, over 220. And so they were like, whoa, we've never seen numbers like that. And we had a specialist doctor who they referred us out to and everything. And basically, I already had the blood, at that point, I already had all the blood sugar measuring stuff in the house, because I've been doing this whole keto diet thing. And so we started testing her blood sugar levels, and fasted, they were fine. However, the gestational diabetes caused her blood sugar to spike like crazy. Even eating 50 grams worth of a fruit, blood sugar spike. Got to go and work it off or whatever. A hamburger with even just one half of the bun, blood sugar spike like crazy. So we kind of put her more on a lower carb Paleolithic-esque diet, where we did things like had almond flour tortillas and things where there was carbs there, but kept the carbs around 50 to 75 grams a day. And what was cool is that as we didn't have to go on medication, as long as the blood sugar stayed low enough, and the fasting blood sugar stayed low enough every morning, and it did. And so that was great. However, we actually had fears that the baby had been for 30 weeks just slammed with tons and tons of just sugar water, basically. And we were kind of worried that she was going to be fat, or not just not fat. Babies have baby fat and everything, but that her belly would be so big that if this baby kept growing, because she was definitely above average growth size, that we were going to have to elect to have a C-section. And that was actually what the original OBGYN was kind of pushing for. And we wanted something, not necessarily a natural at home birth, but we wanted, if we went into labor, we wanted to be natural about it, not just schedule a C-section just because you have gestational diabetes. I didn't really agree to the doctoring that was happening there, where we were kind of being played to the statistics instead of being played to the patient. And it felt really much like that. And so I think you got to be on your toes, you got to do your research, but at the same time, I get the statistics and everything. So very interesting journey, a lot of reading, a lot of research going on. But at the end of the day, and what's funny is a lot of times they just want to slam you with medications. And I know metformin's an amazing compound and everything, and it'd be cool to take someday because I have my own blood sugar issues sometimes, but just to mess with. But at the end of the day, if you can manage it with food, then just eat better. This isn't that hard. You don't necessarily need to eat a ton of fruit. We were eating a lot of fruit in the beginning of the pregnancy. At the end, we were eating a lot of vegetables. All cool. And so it was an interesting but frustrating thing to see. There's very little quality information about oh, you have gestational diabetes. Okay, well, here's a very healthy medium to low carb diet that you can have. Now, a lot of the doctors, though, they freak out about, if you enter in ketosis. Thankfully, our specialists actually even mentioned, some people start deriving their diet more on fats during these times and everything. And I was like, oh, okay, it's actually kind of cool to see a doctor talk about that. But she never said, oh, go into ketosis or anything. But one day we kind of had an earlier dinner, and then we slept in, and we had a later breakfast. So before we did our fasted blood sugar test that day, and Jill's blood sugar was at 82 or something. I was like, hang on a second, let me go see something. I went and got one of my ketone strips, and she actually did have a blood ketone level of 0.5. Technically was in ketosis throughout her morning fast and everything. Or not her morning fast, but yeah, throughout the fast overnight. And so I don't know if anyone would like say, oh, that's a bad idea or not, but I really do believe that ketosis is a natural state. The baby is born into ketosis. We'll get into that later as we're going to get into the childbirth thing. And so the baby is born in ketosis, and breastfed babies are still in ketosis. So it's a very natural thing, and I believe it may be our natural state, but at the same time, now pregnant women's gonna be craving carbs sometimes. So we were trying to get them in when we could and everything, and managing the blood sugar as best as we could. So we were humming along. Being short, Jill was like very front loader on the baby. We had the big basketball, and I knew all along. I was like, this baby's coming early. I mean, there's no way this thing she can get any bigger. Like every week, like from week 34 through, I was like, there's no way you can get any bigger. It didn't make sense, and it kept happening. And you're seeing like hands popping through her stomach when this thing's kicking and everything, and I was just like, jeez, we got someone there. And so one thing I'd like to say that I did all the way through, pretty diligently, not all the time, wish I would have done a better at it, but I read to the baby in the womb. And so every night we get down, and we were actually reading a lot of the books about baby, baby books and like how to breastfeeding books. I was reading some health books on the keto diet. I was reading the salt fix, but I was reading to the baby because I wanted, the baby obviously is going to know Jill and know her voice for the most part, I think. I wanted the baby to know my voice, and it actually came in handy. And I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Reading's going to be a big part of our lives in this household. And so for the last couple of weeks, at some point, Jill kind of had to stop exercising. The hips were kind of getting tore up by this thing, and she'd gained not too much weight. And actually, I think going on the lower carb thing kind of pulled the weight into a slightly lower level. But it's getting big, and so every time, as a pregnant woman kind of gets. The baby gets bigger and bigger. The baby presses up on the bladder, and she's got to go to the bathroom like 3, 4, whatever, a million times a night. And so every time, like those last couple of weeks, she'd get up to go to the bathroom. I'd be like, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Is this it?" And she'd be like, "I'm fine. Like, go to bed." And she would like hobble to the bathroom, hobble on back, and just waddling by the end, and it was cool and everything. And then there was one night where it wasn't a false alarm, and so what happens, she get up, and I heard her like kind of swear, whatever it was, and I was like, "Is this it?" And she was like, "Yep." And so it was game on. It was 5:15 in the morning. We had a full water break rupture. Now, like, I don't know if your guys aren't experienced with this stuff. Like, normally, like, the water doesn't break like it does in the movies. Normally, it's like a trickle down, and you still have a lot of amniotic fluid, and the baby's kind of blocking the release of some of it. Nope, we had a full rupture. Like, this baby like just kicked the thing in, and it was probably her nails. Her nails are like sharp coming out of the womb, and so we had a full rupture. So we called the OB. They paged the on-staff doctor, and they said, "Oh, full rupture? Yeah, get on into the hospital." So we already, I already had it in my Google Maps. We already had our bug out bags ready to go, and we were there, and we were in a hospital bed by 6:45 a.m. and we had already done the hospital tour, so we were ready. Now, there's a couple of things we probably should have noticed that something different was happening before that water breakage. First off, with Jill's gestational diabetes, her blood sugar was no longer really getting affected as badly by a lot of carbs. We picked out and had some French fries one night, and her blood sugar is like at 120. And I was like, okay, that's different, cool. But I didn't think of anything of it. And she also had one last blast of nesting where we had to buy some extra stuff. We had to do some extra things, get the crib was already ready. Everything was ready to go, but there was a few extra things. She repacked her bug out bag and made it a bigger bag and everything, and didn't think of anything of it. But I think deep down inside, like something in the lizard brain over there, like said, this baby's a coming. And indeed it did, with a fury on that water break. And so we got to the hospital, and hang on one second. And so we got to the hospital, and the issue with having your water break like that is, and we were kind of like early, we were before the 37-week mark, is that you're going to, the baby has a higher risk of infection because it's no longer protected by a bunch of amniotic fluid. And so we were up against the clock, and we kind of all along we kind of knew that there's a good chance because of the gestational diabetes, because of our age, because we kind of knew that this might be a C-section. And that's fine. You know, it happens a lot. But a lot of these doctors, I think that they overpush. They overprescribe the C-section. But in this case, it was looking like it was a good chance. So they wanted to move this labor along after a little while. And so when we got there, she was actually didn't feel it at the time, but she was having contractions every 3 minutes. Like, all right, great, this is happening. This is soon. Got the text messages up to the family. You know, my bug out bag was already there and ready to go. And, you know, went and pulled up this stuff. And, you know, I was ready to rock. And so was she. And then the contractions started coming in waves, and it started getting a little more intense, and like, whoa, this is happening. And it's like, it was a long, kind of crazy, awesome day. And so 2 things happened throughout this whole period. And the first thing was that at one point the baby started moving down, and we were trying to do our best to keep Jill comfortable. She did take a little bit of the painkiller. After a couple of the contractions, got to be like, whoa, okay, this is crazy. And I have mad respect for any woman. First off, who gives birth in the first place, but any woman who does this naturally with no painkillers, like, geez. And so just seeing like some of those, we had some of these what you call Titanic contractions that were like the meter was like off the charts for like 6 minutes long. And so she was just sitting there like, and there's not a damn thing I could do. I was just massaging, and you could be supportive. There's classes on what you could do. A lot of times you just shut the F up and you just help your woman, and you get her through it, hold her hand, whatever she needs to do. Sometimes she doesn't want to be massaged, sometimes she does. You get through it. And so at one point, the baby started moving through like the canal and dropped. And let me rewind. And so knowing that we would need to move this thing along quicker because we didn't have a ton of time, there was no amniotic fluid, they put in this like bulb thing up by the cervix to try to like expand the cervix. We were only at 1 centimeter. We needed to get moving. And so that thing got the cervix up to like 4 centimeters or so. But at one point, the baby started moving on down, and she must have like bumped into the thing or whatever, and there was like a mini freak out in there, and her heart rate, and there was an external heart rate monitor at the time, her heart rate dropped, and it was scary. The nurse like immediately jumped in, took care of it. Doctor came in, and they removed the bulb thing. They got her stable, got her in the right position, because it's like positioning is very key in getting the baby to come down the chute properly. You want her to have like a, I forget the position, whatever. And so a lot of things need to happen, and there's a lot of tricks that they have. And a lot of people have doulas and midwives for these very reasons and everything. So they got us all situated, and it was a bit of a concerning moment, but then there's like nothing I could do besides to stand back and don't say a thing. And so I let them do the thing, and boom, baby's heart rate was back up. But they did put the fetal monitor on the baby's head, which was like right there at the cervix. And that bulb thing that they had put in to expand the cervix, that was no longer there, and now we were just monitoring. And so then it became time where there's a couple more contractions that were very intense. The baby was fine at that point, and Jill was like, all right, it's time for the epidural. And so we went in and did it. And so the doctor who did that was awesome, because he kind of noticed that, minor case of scoliosis. And he's like telling us, like, if you ever have to do another epidural in the future, here's how your spine's rotating. This guy was a pro. And so he got in there and took care of it. And, that was a good thing. However, the day was going on and on and on. There's text messages. Like, I remember, like, we were sitting there throughout the whole Cleveland Browns, Houston Texans game and everything. I was like, oh God, my daughter's going to be born during another Cleveland Browns loss, but she wasn't. And so that's going on. And so there was you have to like kind of like keep moving around a little bit, try to get the baby to move a little bit, kind of try to get the cervix to do its thing, rotate on one side to the other. And we rotated from one side to the next with a new nurse who just came on the shift change. This was at 7 p.m. And that's when it happened. And the second time, the baby's heart rate dropped again. And it was like, it was scary, but this nurse pushed a button, and I shit you not, there was a football team of like 12 doctors and nurses in there so fast, it was like literally out of the movies. It was unbelievable. And they pulled me to the side. I'm just sitting there like, okay, like, I'm not going to be the crazy woman who's like, oh my God, save my baby. No, so I was just like, okay, let these people do the thing. And so this nurse comes up to me and she's like, okay, we're going in for emergency C-section. I need you to put this mask on. I'm going to give you all your clothes over there. You got to put this on, and put these over your shoes, and then we'll let you in. And I'm like, okay, whoa. And so like while she's doing that, Jill's already getting wheeled away. Like it was this fast, like gone. Like we went from being in labor to C-section time. And so it was like scary, and I didn't even get to like say goodbye to Jill, which makes me sad. And then so excuse me. And so I went over there, and they had to wait, and they got the baby's heart rate stabilized like super fast. So they told me that right away, and I was like really happy about that because I was worried. And oh shit, I didn't expect to be emotional here. And so I go back there, and I'm helping Jill, and she's on on painkillers. As I walked by, I made sure I didn't have my glasses on at the time, and I didn't have contacts in that day. So I was happy, but I didn't look at Jill's body because I know they're like ripping out her innards and stuff. Like they're doing this stuff fast, getting intestines out of the way and everything. I didn't look, but I kind of looked. And so I'm there holding her hand. Doctor's like, just like, all right, good. And then next thing you know, boom, baby crying. Unbelievable. And so apparently, I didn't see her get pulled out of the uterus or whatever. And they make us an incision along the bikini line. They actually do this like a really good job, especially for how fast they were working. This is all happening so fast. I can't even explain it. And so, boom, baby cried right away, which is a really good sign. She was very small, 5 pounds, 14 ounces. So not like insanely small, but pretty small, and so they're like, all right, Dad, you can come on over. And so while they're, getting Jill situated, fixing her back up, I got to go and see the baby. And, I have a picture where she's like grabbing my finger, and I started talking to her right away. I was like, hey, I'm the dude who's been reading to you the whole time. And it was really cool. And so a lot of people, I've heard both sides. Like a lot of people say, hey, when your kids are born, you have this like immediate connection. Like, oh my God, I need to protect this kid. And then I've heard, other people say, honestly, I had no connection at all until like they became like, 2-3 years old or whatever. And so for me, I'm kind of in the middle. And so while they're stitching her back up, they're like, okay, Dad, we need you to come to the ICU room or whatever, the nursery room and everything. We got to do some tests and everything. And so this is where it kind of fired up for me. So like I'm talking to the baby and she was crying, and then I would start talking to her and like my pacing, my voice, and it would stop her from crying. I was like, oh my God, like she knows my voice. Like the reading, yes, it worked and everything. It's like awesome. And so very happy that I read. And but then what happened was these monsters at this hospital, I'm telling you. Okay, so technically premature baby, technically underweight baby, no doubt, like and everything. And so what they do is they test the blood sugar right away. Well, her blood sugar was low. And well, no shit, because we were on a lowish carb diet. I was like, well, do you check the ketones? She didn't even know what ketones were. I'm like, okay, whatever. It's like kind of a foreign-ish nurse. And so I kind of like quickly was explaining to it while the baby's holding my finger and everything. But what they do is they draw the blood from the baby's heel, and they squeeze the shit out of this baby's heel. This baby's like literally like 4 minutes old, and they're just like squeezing her heel, and she's like crying, and I'm like, what the fuck, And I'm just getting like now I'm like, now I'm swearing, I'm getting like all into this and everything, and I don't know about some of you other guys out there, but the paternal instinct is real. It's unbelievable. And I honestly am not going to say this because it was my kid. I think I really would have been the same way for any kid. I felt bad for this kid. If it was your kid, if it was CJ's kid, if it was anyone's kid, I would have been like, Jesus, like, stop doing this. Because, one blood test was fine, but they wanted to keep testing other things. They wanted to get a blood draw out of her arm to check for infections, which I get because we had so much time where she had no amniotic fluid. I get that. You have a process to do. But I'm like, can't you do this in the morning? This freaking kid's been through enough. And so, like, honestly, at that moment in the nursery, it probably, I can tell you, like, my testosterone count, my cortisol count, everything must have been, like, through the roof. Like, I've never felt like that. And it would have been probably a good idea to have a friend there with me because, like, things were on the verge of getting slightly violent. I felt so bad for this kid after, like, the 5th needle prick or whatever. And they also did the vitamin K injection, which I did approve of. And I made sure in advance that the injection was, like, aluminum-free, preservative-free. I even called up the pharma company. Like, I'm pretty, you know me, I'm crazy about this stuff. And so it was nuts. But it was like this paternal instinct. It was like, not necessarily because of my kid, but just because it's this kid, but maybe because it's my kid, I felt bad. And I was like, you people need to stop stabbing this poor baby. And so I'm like level 9,000. Oh my God. And so like, it took me some time to relax, and I let them do it. And then I realized I was kind of breathing over their shoulders a little bit. So I kind of turned around, got on my phone, texted my mom or whatever, and just like, and my parents, by the way, mom, Aunt Maddie, my brother, Nick, and my dad. Geez, you guys have all been so supportive during this whole pregnancy, buying so much stuff. Like, this kid's got too many clothes already. I want to say thank you, but I had to text them, keep them updated, and I kind of like got off their shoulders. And I think they knew, like, I was like in like that level 9,000 mode. They really went easy on the kid, but yeah. The amount of blood draws, and it's like right when the baby was born, I kind of like sang a little song that I'd been singing to her in the womb, but I also said, like, I looked around this room. You're in this operating room at this point. There's like bright white lights everywhere. You might as well have been on an alien spaceship. And I just imagine, like, if this baby is coherent and understands what's going on, I was just like, I said, welcome to planet Earth. I was like, look at this place. This is ridiculous. There's nothing right about this, in my opinion, at all. I'm a bit more of a naturalist than most people maybe. But I was like, this is ridiculous. There's bright white lights everywhere. People are pulling you out like surgically. And I know we've been doing that forever. And are sticking needles all up in you and everything. And it's just like, I kind of had it at that point. And so I don't know if it was a connection to the baby or anything, but that paternal instinct, that was like, I was on the verge. And so I just need to explain that. I don't know what to say other than wow, And so anyway, they get Jill stitched up and everything, and then get her back to the room that we originally were in. And then we go to give the baby, and we have the baby, but the baby's so light with the low blood sugar, we do need to feed it formula. Our plan was, of course, always to go exclusive breastfeeding. And I was like, kind of like, I don't want to do this. But at the same time, the baby was so skinny. Like, a lot of people and that wasn't like skin and bone skinny. Like, I'm gonna be honest, baby is kind of ripped. Like, and still is to a point where, and it's not, and I'm not bragging really. It's like almost like a little keto baby or something. It's like, but she's got too low body fat, which has been tough because we need to keep the house super hot. Like, she didn't have any body fat to burn, and she didn't have much body fat to burn if there was a period of starvation because the breast milk hadn't yet come in. So I right off the bat was like, okay, we got to give this crappy formula, but it was like an RTD Similac shake or whatever, and so give her the formula, and I'm like, holding my baby for the first time, and it was kind of cool, feeding her. Obviously, we would love to feed her mom's breast milk or mom's colostrum, but at that point, Jill was, kind of knocked out. And so Jill give the baby, put the baby by Jill and everything. She's just so tiny, and Jill is all out of it and everything. So it was really me being like the protector of the baby for a while. But this hospital is so good. Like, if you had the baby naturally, they don't take away the baby anymore. This is St. David's South in Austin. St. David's system has like 3 major hospitals. And the South one, the staff, I couldn't say enough good things about them, honestly. They're good at their jobs. Although by the end, as I'll talk about, there were kind of like a few too many chefs in the kitchen. And so I'm running out of memory here. And so where was I at? So they give you the baby right away, skin to skin contact immediately. And then I took my shirt off, skin to skin contact. Like, you got to keep this baby warm. This baby is like thin, and just small. And so we're feeding it. And then eventually, once Jill's ready, skin to skin by her breast and everything, and she was out of it. And then they move you to the new room, and eventually Jill's coming through, and I text everyone the announcement, and everyone's so happy. My mom was like, I'm so happy, I don't even know what to say. It was like really cool. And so but they have to keep pricking this poor baby's foot because they need to get the blood sugar over and over and over. I'm like, well, so we okay, so the plan was, okay, we need to get this baby's blood sugar high enough to get them to stop pricking it. So you have to have two or three, 4, whatever successful blood draws in a row. So we're feeding her as much colostrum as we can, feeding her as much of the formula, and we're just slamming this baby with food. And it did work. We got that done. And then you just have nurses were great. Everyone was great. But at some point there's 8 doctors in and out of your room. I'm like, this is a newborn. You know what newborns do? They sleep. They don't eat yet because the milk's not yet in. They get a little bit of colostrum. It's like, let this baby sleep. You're waking her up to stab her in the foot to get blood sugar. I'm like, we need to get the F out of this hospital as soon as possible. Now, this hospital is really awesome in that you can't walk away with this baby. They put a monitor on the baby, and not on their arm, but on the foot, on the ankle. And if you even get anywhere remotely close to a door with the baby, you're going to be like, armed guards are going to come and get you. Like, they take this security thing so seriously, and which makes me believe that there's clearly like a kidnapping problem that's more serious than anyone talks about either, because I didn't realize you needed to do such insane measures, but honestly felt very safe and secure there, which is good for mom. You need that kind of comfort to get the breast milk flowing, all that good stuff. But at the same time, people are in the room over and over and over. You got pediatrician coming, you got lactation consultants, you got different nurses, you got the nurses' bosses, you got the manager, and then you got dad, and then we had no visitors and everything, and we still haven't. And so yeah, it was like, okay, Jill, we need to get this baby up to weight, at least a little bit, and get her bilirubin levels down, or at least get her to level out the bilirubin, which is the liver. She's kind of got the suntan, the look in the orange little glow to her and everything. Get the bilirubin levels down by feeding as much colostrum and as much of this formula as she'll take, and then get out of here and just do our thing. And that's what we did, and they did let us discharge a day earlier than I thought we would. We were there for like 2 or 3 days or whatever. It's like kind of a blur. And then we came home, and boom, you got a baby. They make you test out for 90 minutes for oxygen levels are going to be okay in the car seat. So I did that and everything the night before we left, and everything was good. And then boom, you go home, you got a baby, and you are on your own, and it's kind of awesome. But yeah, at some point it was time to get out of there. For instance, I came home to feed the cats, water the plants, do a couple things here. And then when I came back, Jill was in like red alert mode. And what had happened was earlier on, when you take the tour and everything, they say anyone that you see at this hospital that can work with a baby in the women's center here will have a pink tag on. Well, she was just visited by a pediatrician, or so they said, who had no pink tag on. And they say, do not let anyone who's not wearing a pink tag touch your baby. Well, so this guy came in, and he was a doctor, but he didn't have the pink tag on his name card, even though he was a pediatrician, and he's coming and touching the baby, and she's freaking the F out and everything. And so clearly this is an oversight. I think we mentioned it to them, and they said, yeah, they're going to have to get some feedback. And it was a big oversight, because they talk about all the security stuff, but at the end of the day, they didn't follow through. And then I'm gone for 2 hours, and there's like a red flag panic mode. And so it's like, it was time to get out of there. There was certain things like there's just too many chefs in the kitchen. Hey, you know what? We're going to be drowning when we get home, but guess what? It's just going to be us. We can handle this. We can get some support. I could always run to the store, get something, or we can go to the doctor if we need to. But yeah, it was to the point where we had to get out of there, even though the security measures were good. They weren't good enough. And that's the thing, is like, we could file a report, but now we're in the midst of this whole hustle of, staying above water with, what's basically a 10-day-old. And so that's what people don't realize, or, like everyone's like, oh yeah, get ready for not having sleep. That's what people remember. No one gives you actually like reasonable, actionable advice, because they only remember just a couple of the keystone things. They're already worried about their own hustle. My friends who had the kids in like 2013, they're dealing with 3 and 4-year-old issues and everything. So they don't remember what exactly happened on day 9. They just remember it was a big blur with no sleep. And so we're going to be at that point too, where it's like, yeah, we should complain to the hospital that their security measures were effed up, and that they totally bombed on their own thing. But guess what? We're already in our own situation. I feel bad enough as it is spending 45 minutes making this video. And so everyone gets caught up in their whole thing. Same story. Like everyone mentions, oh yeah, if she has a C-section, she's not going to be able to exercise, or, you can't do this or that. No one mentions the simple stuff like, hey, if you're the guy and your wife just had a C-section, you're the one who's going to be bouncing up out of bed. She can't easily get out of bed. So guess what? Who's going to change the diaper immediately? Or who's going to do something like if you have to pop up real quick to take care of something? It's going to be the guy. No one mentions that. No one mentions that you're probably not going to be able to go up the stairs. And the reason is because all they say is, oh yeah, you're not going to get any sleep. Yeah, I already know that. But you don't get a much actionable advice, because the people who had C-sections 2 years ago, they don't remember any of this. And so that's kind of why I'm making the video too. And I'm not complaining about any of that. It's just kind of like everyone is in their moment right here, right now. You can't like be thinking or writing books about what happened 2 years ago, because you're living in the moment now. And so that's how it is. And that's why I'm here recording as well. And so we're just figuring things out. Now, we thought that we were going to have the nursery upstairs here, but because of the C-section. This is like a lot of people don't tell you. We had a feeling we were going to do a C-section. We didn't realize you're not going to be able to walk up the stairs for after a C-section for like multiple weeks. And so the first day, like we need to be down in the bedroom. That's where we have a bassinet, but all our clothes are up here. So I had to bring everything down. We're just a total disorganized mess. And so for a day, we're like just like on zero sleep for 3 days at that point, and just like trying to like get organized. Everyone's getting fed. I'm trying to get food. I'm trying to like take care of business. I got things going on with Price Plow. There's like never-ending industry lawsuits. But I gotta say thank you so much to Robert and CJ for really carrying the torch while I was gone. Should have said that in the beginning of the video. You guys are so awesome, and it makes you realize how awesome it is to have such a good team. 3 amigos, man. I really appreciate it, and now all 3 of us have kids too, so I think they kind of get it and everything. And so, thanks guys. But yeah, so we were a train wreck, and honestly, today's like the first day where I'm not like walking around punch drunk. Like it's been like 9 days of just like, like this baby is definitely not sleeping as much between the 1 and 3:30 a.m. times, and we're kind of we're finally getting that shifted slowly but surely. But she's kind of the boss for now, and so it's been a wild ride and a fun time. But yeah, punch drunk is like definitely the word for it. I mean, I'm finishing pre-workouts like 11:30 p.m. Like, who even cares? We're not getting sleep tonight anyway. Just that nighttime area is really crazy. In fact, so when you're trying to get the breast milk to come in, one of the better things you could do is a lot of skin to skin contact, obviously with mom and baby. But it's also good for dad to connect skin to skin with the baby as well. So she's just in her diaper, and I don't wear a shirt ever around here anyway. So that's the truth behind Price Plow. But so anyway, we're sleeping, or we're trying to like lay down, trying to sleep. The baby's crying, everything. So Chill decides to do skin to skin with the baby and just hold her. And you got to be really careful, especially the newborn. You can't fall asleep when you're doing the skin to skin contact. But of course, like it's like pure heaven, and you almost want to. Well, anyway, I'm like in and out of like whatever consciousness and everything. And so like Jill at some point hands me the baby, right? And I'm doing skin to skin too. And so I start to finally come to, and like I said, I'm like, we're all out of sorts and stuff. Like this is like, night 4 or whatever with no sleep. And we're finally trying to start getting our stuff going. And so I'm like, oh, I start coming to. I'm like, how long did I have the baby for? And she's like, what? I'm like, the baby. How long did you give me the baby for? And, we're like mumbling and all slurring. And she's like, what? And I'm like, this baby's hairy. And I was holding the cat the whole time. Literally, I was like so out of it. I thought the cat was the baby, and I'm like snuggling this cat like it's like my baby, except for he's like twice the weight or like whatever. He's like 11 pounds, and I'm just a mess. I'm like, oh my god, baby's not hairy. It's a freaking cat. And so we're like just stupid things like that, and you're just like punch drunk and you're having fun with it. You're just having weird dreams, and for whatever reason the cats have been like recurring items in my sleep and my dreams and everything. I guess with Jill focusing on the baby, they're kind of hanging out with me more, and like the baby's got hiccups, and so they talk about you can give it gripe water. I don't even know what gripe water is, like some sort of sugar water or whatever if the baby has hiccups. I guess baby hiccups are a normal thing. Well, anyway, I had a dream that the cats were making me gripe water. Like, I don't even know what that even means. But so anyway, we're just like for like a whole week just stumbling through life and everything. And Price Plow wasn't exactly getting my finest. So again, thanks to Robert and CJ. But you know what? The thing is, I was leaving messages for CJ, and he's like, you're a mess, but dude, you sound like you're happy. And so that's kind of the truth. It's like you get these funny stories where I thought the cat was the baby. And so I can't complain. The lack of sleep isn't a big deal. That's why you got the pre-workouts, I guess. And so Jill's still on the prenatals. We're humping along. We're eating good. We're eating a lot. Milk's finally come in big time. So it's like all been very exciting. And so anyway, that's the story about why why I disappeared for a little bit, is because I spawned. And so I'd like to thank everyone for listening. I don't have a whole lot else to say. I'm like really excited. We're still reading to the kid. She is already above her birth weight and everything. So, and we're ahead of the 2-week period for that. So we're cruising along at this point. I'm very, very excited about it. This isn't going to turn into a baby channel, so don't worry about that. Occasionally things might come in. For instance, pregnant women, this is the protein powder I recommend, is Isopure, the natural chocolate flavor, because with the protein powders, you definitely don't want sucralose during pregnancy or lactation. I'm fully convinced of that with looking at the rat studies. However, a lot of them do use stevia. Now, stevia is natural and everything, but is stevia necessarily healthy for a pregnant woman? There's no study on it. And so honestly, we stayed away from most of the stevia until that gestational diabetes got us later on. And so anyway, we stuck with the more natural stuff. Another thing that I want to say was that it would have been cool to know Jill's HbA1c levels because it would have been great to know if she was like kind of pre-diabetic all along. We're gonna find that out eventually. However, they went to send the sample to the lab, and then the Hurricane Harvey happened in Houston, and that's where the lab was. Our sample got destroyed or lost or whatever. So just like all of this happened like crazy. But anyway, all is well. There's no conspiracy. I had a kid. I'm very proud. I'm part of the daddy family, and you're gonna see me working at really odd hours for a little while, and it's back to the Price Plow Forum. But that's what's been going on over here, and I'm super proud of it. I've like felt the power. I've felt the struggle, and I'm gonna look back at this video someday and be like, dang, I had no clue what I was talking about, or dang, like I was so exuberant, and eventually I'm just gonna get exhausted. And so I'm about out of tape here. So this is Mike with Price Plow. Thanks for listening. Feel free to drop any questions, and I'll maybe cite some of these studies as I can get them. Take care. So I did want to add one thing here is a lot of people may be like, oh, will you show pictures, or like don't show pictures? And the answer is no. I'm not going to show any pictures. Some of our closest friends have seen the initial pictures on Facebook and everything. But the truth is that I'm not into putting your kids on social media. And I wish more people would refrain from doing so as well. And you're not going to see me doing workouts with my kid ever on YouTube. It's just like, no offense to Mark Lobaner, but I just highly disagree with doing that until your child is old enough to make that kind of decision. And so I'm not a huge fan of like when people do that, but hey, with Mark, Cameron clearly loves it and everything. And I think at this point it's cool that she does it. I don't watch those videos, but I can tell a few that I've seen that it seems like it's cool. That's just not how we're going to be doing things here. And so definitely going to be taking a far more conservative approach to this. This kid's not going to see me on the phone all the time. This kid's, like doing this on the phone all the time. There's going to be a lot of books. I know a little bit too much. I've been on the internet a little bit too long, and I see a lot of the crap that's on YouTube. We're not going to be like just handing a tablet to the kid and letting you see YouTube. And if you've never researched any of that crap, then look into it before giving your kid YouTube on a tablet. That's all I'm going to say. It's sad and it's very scary. But so anyway, the point is that I'm not going to be sharing pictures, and I'm probably not going to be talking a whole lot about the kid specifically, because maybe she doesn't even want me to make this video. She didn't turn 18 and be like, "Why did you talk about me coming out a few weeks early?" And honestly, that's not really. I guess at that point it is my decision to do so, but to be like plastering pictures of her all over when she's 5 years old, that's not really, I don't think it should be up to me to do, even though it is my kid. And so I'm not going to be doing it. And I think Jill's on the same page. Family's got, access to some of the pictures and everything, and that's cool. And so that's all I'm going to say about that. And so thanks for listening, everyone. I know that you don't have to, but I appreciate you hearing the story. Feel free to share yours in the comments. You guys are awesome. I really thank everyone for the patience, but man, Robert and CJ kept this thing going, and they're awesome. So thanks, guys. Later.